Gormagat Cahirley, and I want to welcome the students as well. You're all very welcome here to Leinster House today. At the outset, can I acknowledge the work of Kochnik Olive, who worked on this particular motion with us. And look, Minister, I think we're all agreed here that, look, we are, as Deputy Berry pointed out, signatories to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with a Disability. We are saying to the Russian Federation, we're saying to the British government that there are international agreements there, there's international law there, and we as a state are asking those countries to abide by that. And I think it is only just and proper that we as a state comply with international law. And one of the principles in relation to the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities is that they have the equal right to housing and to live within their own community regardless of their ability. And key to that is the Housing Aid for Older People's scheme, the Mobility Grant Aid scheme, and the Housing Adaptation Grant for people with a disability, allowing people to remain to live independently in their own homes, in their own communities for far, far longer. And, you know, it is imperative that we facilitate that. And the reality is that the rates of grant have not increased over the last number of years. They don't today reflect current building costs, and the income thresholds need to be modernised and updated. And I'm glad, Minister, that you've listened to us here this morning, you've acknowledged that, and you are determined to address that. And just to give you one example, Minister, of what we're talking about, a constituent of mine has applied for the Housing Adaptation Grant. The person is an amputee, resides in a two-storey house. Their only income is social welfare. They applied for and were granted the award from Galway County Council, and they were granted the maximum rate of grant of €30,000. They were lucky enough, believe it or not, to actually get contractors to actually price the work, because one of the biggest problems in relation to all of these grant schemes now, particularly the support for older people and people with the grant for people with a disability, is trying to actually get a contractor now that will actually price that work. It's nearly impossible because the bureaucracy that's involved in it, because of the low rate of grant, a lot of contractors aren't interested in this work anymore, and that is a big problem, is getting those prices in the first place. But in this case, my constituent did secure the prices, which varied from €48,000 to €60,000. Now, that's more than 3 months ago. The likelihood is, with the way costs have gone, it's probably gone up since that. So they had a small amount of savings. They went to the credit union in Ballinasloe, explained their predicament, and the credit union was prepared to give them a loan of €8,000. The difficulty is, Minister, they cannot make up the balance of €10,000. So, you know, giving them a grant of €30,000, they were as well off refuse them the application as give them that, because they cannot and don't have the resources to actually get the €10,000 to actually put the toilet and bathroom downstairs, to put a bedroom downstairs, so this particular individual can continue to live in their own home. And that is forcing that person onto the already chaotic waiting list that we have for housing at the moment, with 60,000 people on them and rising, sadly. And it makes absolutely no sense. We should be trying to facilitate people to remain in their own houses rather than putting additional pressure on our existing housing lists. And what's perverse about that then, Minister, is, and we on the Social Protection Committee heard evidence 2 weeks ago, that some local authorities are actually handing back money that's been provided in these grants on an annual basis, because it is a co-financing scheme. A contribution has to be made by the local authority to that as well. And I know that Family Carers Ireland would be interested in acting actually acting as a co-financing agent in relation to that, to ensure that money is not being sent back from the local authorities on an annual basis. In fairness to the government, it is providing resources. All of those resources should be utilised, and I would ask you to engage with Family Carers Ireland in relation to that. Now, that's the grant for a person with a disability. And look, Minister, I could spend all day giving you other examples of that. You yourself know the issues very well, and you've reflected that in your response and the response of the government here as well. And then you have the housing aid for older people's schemes, to try and adapt a house to meet the needs of an older person. And as you know, Minister, we have a very serious housing crisis at the moment, and yet, you know, a lot of the adaptations that are being carried out to houses are being carried out under the disability grant scheme or under the older person's grant scheme, to actually make a family type house suitable for an older person. So we're talking about 3 and 4 bedroom family type homes close to schools and services and so forth, being adapted with public money to make them suitable for a person maybe with mobility issues or an older person. Houses that are too big and too costly for people to heat, where they could do with much smaller smaller accommodation, but that is not available at the moment. And could I say to you, Minister, that we do need to look at, particularly within the private sector, making 1 and 2 bedroom homes available in our towns and villages and in our cities, close to existing services that older people need, close to bus routes, where older people could actually downsize. And I know you're committed to supporting downsizing, but downsizing will only work if older people actually have a very feasible option, which isn't there at the moment. And I think we do need to support the development of 1 and 2 bedroom cluster type housing developments for older people, so they can downsize, releasing family homes back onto the market that would help the situation. But in tandem with that, Minister, we have to address the issue of security of tenure. Because, yes, older people will sell their own home. They will either buy these 1 or 2 bedroom homes, or, which makes far more sense, that they would enter into a long-term lease in relation to them. But we need to bring in law in this country that provides security of tenure, particularly for older people in this cluster type accommodation, so that they are guaranteed a fixed rent for the period that they require that accommodation. And I think if those 2 measures could be taken, it could take some of the pressure off this particular grant scheme. It could release family homes that are badly and desperately needed right across this country at present. The final issue, Minister, I want to raise with you is the whole green agenda. And you know, local authority houses. There are delays within local authority houses carrying out these adaptations for a person with a disability or an older person. In some local authorities, it's taken 4 years to have these adaptations carried out. And when they are being carried out, they're not bringing them into the current environmental standards. They're replacing the heating system with oil-fired central heating system. And we'll have to go back again and retrofit those homes with non-fossil fuel heating systems. And we do need, as a matter of urgency, to retrofit the local authority housing stock that we have across this country. And on that issue of retrofitting, Minister, Project Ireland 2040 committed to retrofitting 45,000 homes per annum from 2021 on. This year, the government has committed to retrofitting just 22,000 homes, which falls significantly short of what is already committed to and what the funding is already in place for. And just 4,500 of those homes are people who are in fuel poverty. And even the other homes, They are reliant on retrofitting grants, which are not yet available. They were announced by the Minister for Energy already, but they're not yet available. So while we're all talking about climate change at the moment, talk is cheap, but actually delivering on retrofitting needs to happen. And that is not happening. The targets have been reduced by this government, and even those abysmal targets are not going to be achieved this year, which is an indictment of where we need to be going as a country and as a society. I commend the motion to the House, and I thank the government for their support. Thank you very much.